Welcome to another episode of Ask a Brit, the episodes in which I answer your questions. And of course, if you do have a question, go ahead once more and beneath this video or any video throughout the week, ask your question and put the hashtag #AskABrit. But we have an action-packed schedule ahead of us today, so I'm going to get right into the questions, starting with this one question that we actually got on lostinthepond.com on our website. But they used the hashtag #AskABrit, so that is their passport into this video. And this question comes from Lola, who asks, which states have you been to so far? So actually, I'm not going to go through and cover all of the states in this video, but I visited 20 so far. And if you would like to see a breakdown of all of those lists, as well as sort of specific individual places that I've been to, go to lostinthepond.com and then click on the tab that says States Visited, and it's going to bring up a map for you. And on that map, not only does it show all of the places I've visited, but it will show you where I have done a Finding America video for. And you just click on that button and that will take you to that video. Alright, next question comes from Arlin, who says, would you be planning to visit Texas? Yes, I would. If you're not familiar with these videos, especially my Finding America videos, the plan is to visit all 50 of these United States, and Texas, of course, is one of those last time I checked, isn't it?
No.
No, it's not. You don't mess with Texas, alright? It's a big state, so obviously I think that you'd want to spend quite a bit of time there. You couldn't just go to Austin and say, I've seen Texas now, I'm done. No, there's Dallas as well. So, and others, I'm just joking. There are many places to see in Texas. And yeah, I mean, I would be open to suggestions, Arlen, for places that I should visit when I visit. Okay, next question comes from Julie Sloan, who says, can the average Brit tell the difference between the American and Canadian accents? And is it possible that stereotypes might account for why we were wrongly identified as Canadian? Julie had previously been to the UK and was identified as Canadian, but Julie is in fact American. You know, I must say, going back to when I lived in England, and I met a lot of Americans and a couple of Canadians here and there, and you know, I wouldn't back then have quite so easily been able to tell the difference between them, unless one of them was dressed up like a Mountie. There is a suggestion that quiet Americans are assumed to be Canadian, but again, as I pointed out in the week, that a lot of the stereotypes around Americans being loud can be hit and miss. I mean, not all Americans are loud by any means. Okay, Flying Brian has two questions for me this week. Number one, have you seen the German U-boat in Chicago's Museum of Science and Industry? If so, please provide your impression. If not, please do so and then provide your impression. I've not seen it, but I am absolutely fascinated with both World War II history and just sort of maritime history in general. So that sounds like it would be amazing. An actual German U-boat here in Chicago.
We should go.
Oh, we should, and we should all start talking like Northerners from England for no reason. Don't know why that started happening. But Flying Brian's next question is, of all the varied English accents that exist across the British Isles, is there one that you would think is the worst or considered to be the harshest to listen to? I'm going to get in a lot of trouble here if I answer this accurately. I personally don't have too many issues with any accents in the UK. I will say on the whole that there are some specific accents that get pegged for not sounding that great in England. So the Brummie accent, which is Birmingham, I have no problems with that accent. So if you're from Birmingham, don't come and shoot me. But some people would hold that one out there. Scouse as well, you know, Liverpool is often seen as quite a sort of an ugly accent. I actually think it's quite beautiful.
I love it, but it's hard to understand.
It's hard to understand, it's hard to replicate, as you can tell. Alright, Susie Q asks, since you were so interested in the US since you were a child, was it what you thought it would be, or was it even better, when you came here for the very first time? I don't know. I think in some regards, yes, it has been quite a lot like I imagined. In others, it's exceeded my expectations of it. It's been an eye-opening experience, mostly in a good way, but we will cover that later when we've had more to drink and less coffee, more coffee. Okay, Mark Old Geezer, hello Mark, asks, what do you wish someone had told you about America before you came here? So that kind of ties into our last question. That's a tough one. I think, I always go back to this, is just how much bigger America is. And I don't just mean in terms of the area of the land, although that of course is humongous. It's just everything. is pretty much bigger here. Until you experience it, you don't sort of get that sense for just how big it is. And it can be overwhelming at times, I think. But I don't know. In a way, I'm glad nobody did tell me. I'm glad nobody told me anything before moving here, and that I just was able to experience it for myself. I think that's part of adapting to a new culture. It's also part of just travel in general. So yeah, in a way, I'm glad I was able to discover that myself, as well as other things. The only thing I wasn't glad to discover myself was cinnamon. And Mark also asks, on the same line, what do you think an American needs to know about England before they go there? That you need an umbrella. All right, this next one is a three-part question. Well, it's three questions, let's be honest. From Ye Old Big T. He's done that in the sort of the old style of writing. And he says, when are the Americans going to admit they lost the War of 1812? I'm not going to get into that again. Arguments can be arguments, but this is an argument that nobody wins because everybody thinks they're right. But number two is, I think it's great that you're a bit of an explorer, but don't you feel as though you are constraining yourself by mostly limiting your expeditions to the continental United States? It's a big old world out there, and there's a lot more to it than Mount Rushmore and Route 66. I absolutely agree with you. In fact, along this journey that I'm going on, there will be excursions, I'm sure, to other places. But one of the big plans that we have is to start and grow our travel series right here in America. And then once we've established, a following, we want to take it around the world. We want to see Amsterdam, we want to see Paris, we want to see Pyongyang, North Korea, probably not immediately. Just go around the world. This is going to be the biggest travel show in the universe. We'll even travel round the universe. We're not just going to stick to Earth. There's so much more to see out there in space. SpaceX. All right, Anna from Iowa, hello Anna, by the way, asks, you might be a bit too young to be thinking of this much, but when considering a place of retirement, are you staying here or heading home or elsewhere? Weirdly enough, the wife and I have talked about this many a time, and we keep coming back to the idea of living in the Lake District when we're 68 years old. I think it seems a placid sort of lifestyle for people out there, even if you are kind of in the middle of nowhere and all of that. But that seems good to me. And you've got Windermere just a walk away.
Yes, please.
So yeah, we're thinking probably that. But hey, plans change. Maybe we'll be living in Des Moines. Who knows? Yeah, it's Des Moines or the Lake District at this point, Anna. Oh God, I'm an idiot.
Why?
I forgot to do Ye Old Big T's third question, which was, when are you going to do a symphonic black metal remix of your British slang song? That's an amazing idea. We'll do it in July, live, from Madison Square Garden. Probably won't get permission for that. Here we go. Andy Garner asks, have you started holding your cutlery like an American when eating? So, i.e. moving your fork into your right hand rather than keeping it in your left. I haven't. I've noticed here, it could be just a Midwestern thing, but I've noticed that Tara's family eats like this, right? They've got a fork in one hand and a knife like that, and they go... They don't make those noises. That's just me. But I hold mine like this. So the fork would be... No, the knife would be in this hand, and the fork in this one, and... it's across rather than down. It's keep the noises to a minimum is what I've been told. I don't usually adhere to that advice. So KittyCat1359 asks, have you managed to connect with many fellow British expats in your area? If so, how did you find them? Also, if you have any British themed food shops nearby, what's your favourite thing to buy that you miss from home? Yeah, I have on occasion met up with a few British expats. I want to just give a shout out to Brit in Chicago. You can check them out on Facebook. And Lucy, who heads that up, is a lovely person. You should get in touch with her if indeed you're in the Chicago area. I think you're actually from Lincolnshire like myself, which is good. And yeah, so I've been to a couple of events here and there, and that's always nice, The funny thing is, I think a lot of Brits, when they come to the US or indeed to any country, they try to find each other, to meet up and become buddy. I do like doing that, now and again, but it's not something that, I feel like I have to do. I feel like Americans can absolutely be the core of my friends as well. It's really about, are you a good person? That's the starting point, not do you sound like me when you speak. I would say that firstly, yes, there are food shops nearby or shops nearby. So nearby we have Mrs. Murphy and Sons Irish Bistro, I think. But it's not just a bistro. To the side of it, there's in fact a shop that sells sort of Cadbury's, but it also sells a lot of other sort of products. When I'm not on a chocolate fast, which I currently am, crunchies are the thing I miss. Do we have a crunchy in the fridge still?
I ate it.
She ate the... I can't show you the example, but... Alright, hello, Firecracker, 3240. You ask, I just purchased a bottle of HP. What am I supposed to do with it now? You're supposed to not lie down. That was weird, sorry about that. You're supposed to put it on lots of things, right? I put it on chips. I dip chips in it. I used to put it on hot dogs when I was not a vegetarian. When I was a kid, right? When I was at school, I would line up, get 4 fish fingers and a hot dog. This would be my dinner every day at school.
That's
Imagine
horrible.
that. It is. It's absolutely awful. But I would douse the fish fingers in vinegar and then absolutely load up the hot dog with HP. Emerald asks, what is your favourite southern food? Pecan pie, hands down. But Emerald also asks, do you or have you played video games? And if so, what are your favourites? And number 2, on an unrelated note, if you visit Texas, are you going to see any of the following? The USS Texas, the USS Lexington, or any of the Space Center things in Houston? I absolutely want to go to the space-related things in Houston. I'm a huge space enthusiast, just in general, hence earlier on telling you that I'm going to take my travel series out there into the solar system. Oh, and on video games, yes, I mean, I grew up in the era where video games, of course, were emerging and things, so I go way back to Nintendo and Mario 3. Mario 3 was the greatest video game ever made. Okay, Sabina asks, what was the hardest thing when you moved to the US? In a way it was language driven, I think, because you would be in situations where there would genuinely be confusion about what was meant. You know, so I would be asking my in-laws, who I was staying with at the time, hey, where do you keep the flannels? And they'd bring out like a collection of shirts for me, and I just meant the washcloth, you know. Although I did appreciate the shirts, don't get me wrong, I've thrown most of them away now, but BJS 301 says, if I, a typical American, moved to Great Britain, what stereotype would I be most likely to find true, and which would be most quickly dispelled? I will say that British people maybe do have a tendency to moan about the weather, but you know what else? I think Americans do too. I don't think this is just a British thing. Like, people moan about the weather because it's not quite to what they want it. I mean, if I had it my way, it would be 67 degrees every day, right? So I moan when it's not. If it just moves 1 degree either side of that or beyond, then I'm a bag of moaning bags. That I made that phrase up. That doesn't mean anything, but I moan a lot about it. And I'm British, yes, but I've heard Americans do the same thing. I went high-pitched there because I'm getting really intense. Jarwood asks, what is your opinion on peanut butter and or the classic American sandwich that is the PB&J? So that's peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I go back and forth. I have to be in the mood. So this week, 4 days in a row, I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And the first day, absolutely fine. It fulfilled every need and wish that I've ever wanted. And then 2 days later, I was just so fed up that I wanted to be covered in sugar and turned around in water until my name became Elizabeth. That's the effect this has on me. It makes me say things that I don't quite understand myself. I can eat it. It is bearable. It's not like cinnamon in that way. Cinnamon drives me to do really insane things like move closer to the camera like this and scare you all, right? But peanut butter, I never grew up with it, so...
I, on the other hand...
She did.
But I absolutely could eat an entire tubful in this
There you go.
thing if I wanted to.
There you go. Have that. Oh, she's doing it.
So
unbelievable.
good.
Don't put it all on the spoon at once. Yeah, that's... Alright, next question comes from Elliot Brown. Not my brother, my dad. Not my dad either, I'm kidding. I've never met you. Sorry, Elliot. But thank you for your question. Have you been to the Arkansas Ozarks? He asks. And the reason Elliot asks, have we been there, is because he's a huge fan of the music there. And as I'm sure you know, a lot of British culture through music was preserved in the Ozarks and Appalachians. I've not, but I have been in the Appalachians, and I've actually been lucky enough to hear a lot of the music actually played there. Some fine banjo picking, as I recall, and I'm a big fan of the banjo. I'm not sure that's necessarily what you're getting at here, but in terms of the Arkansas Ozarks, again,
I mean, it should be.
I want to see a lot.
What he's probably talking about is bluegrass, which is, derived. Or in the Ozarks, I mean, it's a different kind of music, but it is the same idea.
JWB52Z asks, after having lived in the US for a number of years now, are there any questions that you still can't get answers to? Yeah, why cinnamon? Okay, next question comes from Scootaloo, who says, do you think that you will ever come to Wisconsin again, especially since it's so close, to check out what more Wisconsin has to offer? Absolutely. I do want to check out that international store that I think you yourself pointed out to me. So we will be doing that here in the near future. But yeah, sure. I mean, I've had so many recommendations specifically for a lot of the coastal towns that are dotted up on Lake Michigan. Clive54 asks, are any accents frowned upon by the average American? People might think of the Bronx accent or certain southern accents in this way. And again, to clarify, absolutely not my stance on that. I love the sound of all of the aforementioned accents, and I don't think I've encountered an accent here that hasn't been sort of a beautiful tune on my ears. Next question comes from Common Sense, and now the pressure is on me to deliver a common sense answer, or on them to have asked a common sense question. So we're about to find out. What about the similarities between US and British folk? The similarities between... This is common sense, okay? I think that we too often focus on the differences and ignore the fact that we're all just humans who have the same needs and wants, but have been shaped by our differing cultures. I absolutely agree, common sense. We do spend a lot of time talking about our differences. I think it's more newsworthy, it's more clickable right here. BuzzFeed will put out an article saying, oh, these British people tried American foods, right? Here's their reaction. I'm one to talk. But at the same time, you're right. It might not be as newsworthy or as clickable to focus on how we're actually quite similar and the same, but we are. We all want to raise money to support ourselves. We all want to have a family. Well, not all. We're back and forth on that. We have cats, but we all just want to survive. I think that's it. And that's true of not just Americans and Brits, believe it or not. The Dutch, the French, the Croatian, everyone around the world wants to survive, right? We're all just trying to get through and enjoy life as best we can. So yeah, no, I would love to do a video actually on how we're the same and see how many people actually watch that. It'd be like 50.
That's not true.
Anyway, YouTube Freak 1974 asks, is it true the American working population get shite paid leave? I heard they only get 2 weeks paid leave. Well, actually, no, I'm not sure where you heard that from, because it's not mandatory for Americans to have paid leave at all. This is usually dictated by their company. The company that you work for might say you get this certain amount of days per year, but you often have to earn paid time off, PTO as they call it here, in the number of hours you actually work. So you work a certain amount of hours and it accrues over time. So it can build up, and sure enough, you put in the hours, you can take a decent amount of time off, depending on where you work. Not all companies are as good as that. In the past, I've worked for companies that they don't really encourage you to take your PTO. They almost make you feel guilty for doing so. So it's certainly a different situation here. I think the idea of taking vacation and leaving the work behind is almost frowned upon to some extent. But speaking of paid time off, I'm taking PTO actually this next weekend as the wife and I, head out to St. Louis, where we're going to film another episode of Finding America, and this episode was in fact fully funded by our patrons over on patreon.com. So if you would like to help out in any way with our ventures around the United States, then go to patreon.com/lostinthepond, where you can pledge anything from $1 a month to $500 a month if you're a multi-billionaire watching this. Honestly, any amount is so welcome. I mean, it's really helped with this trip. And we're going to hopefully see the benefits of that when we put out what I hope to be our best Finding America video yet. Not that St. Louis is better than Milwaukee, I just mean that I'm getting more into this and understanding the process a bit better, and we're learning as we go along. But until then, have a jolly good time and don't go too crazy on this stuff, because it will kill you. It won't kill you. That's...